Esther, it's great to be here with you in your exhibition at Xavier Hufkens. I thought we could start by talking about the title of your exhibition, As of Now. Why did you choose this title and how does it relate to the work on display?
The title was like part of a drawing to begin with, and then the way I drew it was as of now, and then on the next line I wrote again as of now, but a little bit already further in time. Mm-hmm. So I was thinking about the idea of now and what is now, and that it's the now of just now had passed. And then thinking about the exhibition, I was thinking a lot about that specific moment and what was before and what comes after, because in so many of the works are feel like they could be something, become something, mm-hmm. or maybe they were something, but in this current state they are what they are.
So it's about changeability in a sense.
Yeah.
What I like about the title is that it implies both decision but also an openness to what could happen next. And you've said that you work without a preconceived idea of the work, but that you like to make decisions as you go along. Maybe we can speak about the specific work. Mm-hmm. So when we walk into the gallery, we immediately encounter a tall colored sculpture, a group of sculptures actually, leaning against the wall. What were some of the ideas that you wanted to explore through this sculpture?
I was thinking about how do we perceive difference and similarity at the same time. So therefore I needed more, and that's why the shape of the pairs are similar and the color is similar, but they're different.
You initially meant to present them as single sculptures rather than as a group.
Yeah, but in like the blues together and the greens together and the yellows, and that was the original idea. But when I finished them and I saw them, my reaction to them was quite strong, and I thought this needed to be in this way, but I could not have thought about it. It surprised me, kind of.
I think that happens often in your work, doesn't it? For instance, with the aluminum casts as well, that you have a very general idea of where you want to go, but then the work turns out quite different from what you were expecting.
The casts, they used to be different sculptures that I kind of had in the studio. They were left out, they were not used at the time when I made them, when I wanted to use them, and so they lost a little bit their purpose. But they were around and they were around and they were around for quite some time, and I wanted to keep working with them because I was interested in them at some point and didn't know for a long time how to continue. And then I decided to change their form by cutting them, by slicing them. So there it kind of took me somewhere also completely different. But at the time when I cut them, then I knew, but until I did that, they were just present.
Your work is ultimately about freedom. Can you talk about what freedom means for you in relation to your work?
To put something in the world that can be on its own, to accept its existence.
So there is also a certain fearlessness that comes with that freedom.
If I'm afraid, as the one who makes it, that you won't understand it, then it will come with a lot of explanation, I think. And if I trust, I trust that you will see what you see, and if you don't like it, whatever you understand, whatever it does for you, that's it,
So how do you hope that a viewer sees your work?
Up to the viewer. It's a conversation, it's an exchange, because I can go to an exhibition, I can look at the work, and I can look at it and go and leave. And I have not taken the time. Mm-hmm. I have to open myself up to see it.
You have to give something.
You have to give something. Yeah, exactly. And I know it for myself. Sometimes I go, I don't look, I don't see anything. I also don't get anything.
Let's talk about the works on paper, the drawings, the prints. You just said that your process for those is quite different from how you approach your sculptures. Can you talk a bit about your drawing practice?
You know, when I think about, for example, the drawings and I think about my posture when I make them, I'm always like on the floor or on the table and I'm bent down and I just focus on that sheet of paper. But when I work on sculptures or large drawings, I'm upright. I walk around, I move, and there's a lot around. So that already changes a lot.
Mm-hmm. It's a different kind of concentration.
Yeah, and the focus is different. And I made them doing a residency in the winter in Holland, by the coast. And yeah, it was a beautiful time of walking in nature and coming back to the studio and making drawings and focusing and listening. I was listening to the radio a lot.
And this listening to the radio, is that the reason that we find words in the drawings?
Yeah, maybe actually it was a little like a way to organize a little bit also thoughts. Actually, yeah, I reacted probably to what I heard on the radio sometimes. And
there are a lot of traces of your process in your drawings and prints. For instance, in the parts that you have painted over. Mm-hmm. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sometimes what I thought was necessary in the beginning is not necessary after. So with time spent on a drawing, things change and new things come up and other things are necessary. So then I just paint them over.
So it's a process of editing in a way.
Editing, subtracting, yeah.
And then there's the beautiful work behind us. 2 canvases, one on the wall, one on the floor, connected by sticks. How did you conceive of this work and how did you make it?
Maybe that method, I could say, of drawing and sculpture at the same time, where the sculpture and the drawing are in conversation, let's say. And it's kind of, it's not me, when I make only the drawing or only the sculpture, I feel like, okay, I make the drawing or I make the sculpture, and this, I bring them together, and then there is a demand from both ways of what is necessary.
So that's beautiful, you are pushing your work further.
The question is always, how do we push? How do we move on? How do we learn? How do we learn? How do we unlearn? How do we relearn?
I was wondering how you see the relationship between your work and language, because the work seems almost non-verbal.
You know, I think it's a possibility to do that in this practice. Mm-hmm. Like we can go there. That's also why it's there. It offers itself to that. So
why even make the work if you could already describe?
Yeah, exactly. So then I can also just really push that. Mm-hmm. And if it doesn't come from, because it doesn't come from a place of words, when I make it, it may escape the words a little bit, also after. So I like that also. And I mean, there's things to talk about always.
But maybe more on the level of process than on the level of meaning.
Yeah, poetry would be easier. Yeah.